أجمعين صلى الله وسلم على نبينا الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Respected elders and brothers, our beloved viewers at home, Alhamdulillah, today is Sunday, and on Sundays we try to go over some of the verses from the Quran and try to contemplate over the meanings of those verses. May Allah Azza wa Jalla reward all those of you who join and listen with full attentiveness. Allah Azza wa Jalla give me and all of us the tawfiq to act upon all of these discourses and lectures and talks that are given, inshallah. So today, as we all know, and we're actually seeing it everywhere in social media, and we're probably getting text messages and email from different retail companies to buy their products for Father's Day. You know, today is Father's Day. Everybody's hyped up about Father's Day. Although we do not celebrate Father's Day, right? We all know that. We are supposed to be appreciative of our parents every single day of the year, 365 days. It's not a one-day thing. So as long as we are still in that spirit, yeah, and we're kind of thinking about our fathers, although we don't celebrate it, we can still go over some of the verses that are related to our parents. And some might say that, this is supposed to be for children, and to give a lecture about parents, this is for children. It's a Sunday school, but you'd be surprised to know that in Surah Al-Isrā, Allah Azza wa Jalla, the way He addresses these verses, if you really start picking bone and try to dissect the verse, you will see that it's not really meant for little kids or young children. It's actually more geared towards people who are older, and they have parents with them that are elderly as well. So let's get on right to it. We're in Surah Al-Isrā, verse number 23. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. Allah says that Allah has ordained and He has decreed, your Lord, that you don't worship anyone إلا إياه, except Him. Right? That is the first and the foremost mission of all of the prophets and anyone that ever came, as far as the Mursaleen and Anbiya. That's the first calling they made, is to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla alone. Right? Because without Tawheed and without believing Allah Azza wa Jalla, without us offering our worship only to Allah Azza wa Jalla, this is ta'budu. You don't offer your worship except to Allah Azza wa Jalla, right? That is the most important. If we don't attribute and give our ibadah to Allah Azza wa Jalla, then it is shirk. And it is, no matter how we do it, what other route we try to take, what loophole we try to find, as long as our ibadah is for something else and not directly towards Allah Azza wa Jal, then that will be considered shirk, whether it's shirk akbar or asghar. So that is why Allah says the whole point of your creation is that you worship no one but Allah Azza wa Jal, illa iyyahu. And then right after that, what is the command that comes right after that? It's not that follow the Anbiya, follow the Prophet that came to you, or any other thing that could have been mentioned here. Allah says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and be kind to your parents. You're dutiful right after Allah Azza wa Jal to your parents. Allah Azza wa Jal is taking care of you in the unseen. Right after that, it's your parents who are taking care of you, who took care of you when you were small. It's really a difficult thing to do, to once we grow up, to be able to respect and love and serve our parents the same way we are supposed to, because they took care of us very well when we were small. The problem is what? We forgot about it. We cannot recall all of the difficulties they went through to bring us where we are right now. For many of us, our parents might have migrated from a whole different society and environment and country, coming to this country, not knowing the language, the culture, the people, not knowing what kind of money or income or job they're going to do, but they took that leap of faith for the sake of their children, right? But just because we don't see it anymore, or it's not in front of our eyes anymore, it's very difficult. It's very difficult for us to continue to serve them to that same level that they served us. So they are our worldly means for us to be here, for our existence in this world. They are the direct reason. If they weren't here, we wouldn't be here. So Allah says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, be kind to your parents. Now, like we said, you might say, oh, this is maybe for children. We're supposed to teach this to the children, the after school or summer program, and you let them win some competition and give them a speech about parents. But Allah says, إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. Allah says, if one or both of them reach old age, عِنْدَكَ, by you, you're there, and they reach old age. Now, a question for myself and everyone who's listening is that what age are we going to be at when our parents reach an old age, right? We are most likely, most of the time, we're going to be in our 20s, 30s, or in 40s, right? So this part of the verse is for those elderly brothers and sisters who have their parents with them. And this is perhaps even more difficult than being obedient to our parents when we're younger. When you're younger, if you had a good upbringing, like most of us, then it's not difficult to obey your parents, right? You feel dutiful and grateful, especially when you're young. They say that when you're 10 years old, you say that I wish I was like my father. And then when you're 15 years old, you say that I'm tired of my father. And then when you're 30 years old, you wish your father wasn't here anymore. And then when you're 50 years old, you go back to that first wish that you made at 10 years old, which was, I wish that I can be like my father, right? So when we reach old age, it's very important that, in our 30s and 40s, that if we do have parents by us, no matter how annoying they get, how nagging they get, we must suppress any reaction that we have that's negative. Because Allah says, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفْ. Don't even say uff to them. It doesn't have to be uff, that word. It could be the rolling of the eyes. Or it could be you taking a big sigh and like, ah, or like just hanging up the phone. Or just shutting the door on them. Or not talking to them when they ask you something. All of uff is mentioned here because that is the least form of annoyance that you can show to your parents. The smallest thing you can do is like uff, right? Anything beyond that, that's also included in babi awla, of course, by necessity, right? You can't hit them, you can't slap them, you can't drag them, you can't talk to them in a condescending manner, right? So, especially when people get older, when they have their kids, we want full control of our kids. Like you raised us, alhamdulillah, but now it's my turn to raise my kids. And so you will see that sometimes your parents are, because they're bored at home and maybe their whole life they took care of you and they were busy, they had work, and now at old age they don't have anything to do. So maybe sometimes you will see that they're spoiling your children and their grandchildren. You buy them candies and you go like, why are you giving my kids candies and sugar, and why are you buying them toy and spoiling them, and what are you teaching them? Maybe because your understanding of parenting has changed and is different than your parents, right? So all of these things are going to annoy you, it's going to bother you. Everything they tell you, maybe, they might have forgotten to do a lot of the things that are very basic, like using the phone or basic tasks. Because Allah says that, towards the end of people's lives, Allah will return them back to what they didn't know in the beginning. لِكَيْ لَا يَعْلَمَ مِنْ بَعْدِ عِلْمٍ شَيْئًا. People in their first stage of life, they didn't know anything, and then they became knowledgeable, and then Allah says, we will return you to that state that you were in. You don't know anything anymore. So now, parents are very annoying. Small little things, they come and ask you, and they nag you, and they annoy you, and especially when they get old, they have a lot of doctors and appointments, and dealing with doctors and hospitals. Even if it's something small, it's going to eat up like 10, maybe sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 hours from your day, right? So you got to deal with that. You got to, maybe there's no transportation. They'll send those vans that they send for seniors. Those things take time. You got to at least call like 4 days before or 2 days before to book one of those things. And then when they come very late. And then when they pick you up, drop you off, because it's almost like a bus. So a lot of these things you have to overlook, no matter how much they, make you mad or say things that are hurtful, even if they do say things that are hurtful, right? Because as long as they are your parents, your biological parents, Allah says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Walid means your biological, comes from wilada. Wilada means birth. Walid is the one that gave you birth. They are your direct biological parents. As long as they give birth to you, that's it, khalas. You have to be kind towards them. Whether they're Muslim, non-Muslim, whether they're kind, whether they're mean, right? Allah doesn't say here, وَبِالْأَبَوَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا أو وَبِالْأَبِ وَالْأُمِّ إِحْسَانًا, to the father and your mom and your dad, you know, showing affection. Whether they're believers or non-believers, they're kind to you, nice to you, none of that matters. As long as they gave birth to you, khalas, that's it. You have to be kind to them. So, realistically speaking, yeah, they might be mean to you sometimes, and they just want your attention, and they just want to talk to you. And sometimes they go like, "We haven't talked to me in so many days, in several days," you know. So you just have to deal with that and just swallow it up, you know. Especially when we get older and when we have our own family, we want our privacy. We want to become independent. And the first people we try to get rid of from our lives is our parents, because they are the ones that made us feel like we are dependent on them our whole life. And so right now you still feel the same way. They don't. Maybe they're having trouble setting the boundary as to how much should I, delve into his life, invade his privacy, or where do I stop? So sometimes setting those boundaries, it's hard and difficult. So the first people we try to get rid of from our lives to feel more independent is our parents. Maybe we move out, we get married, we make our own money, we make our own bread. We want to move out, or even if you stay home, you end up becoming the breadwinner of the house. You're making the money, you're paying the bills, you're paying the rent or whatever else it is, and now so you feel like, why are they still bothering me? Why are they still annoying me? Right? So all of those things you have to just swallow it up, no matter how bad it gets. Right? So that's something very difficult to accept. Right? Your whole life you're under your parents. Now you're making the money. You have your own family, and they're still like that to you. You can't say off. Allah said you can't even say off. Just be quiet. Don't say anything. Right? Sometimes people react and get angry and get mad and say things that are very, very mean, but they'll be like, "Oh, it's my parents. They're gonna what they have no choice but to forgive me, right?" And they'll say the meanest thing to their parents. They'll shut the door, slam the door, scream at them, and treat them like they're some annoying pets, because they're like, "I know they're gonna forgive me. I know they have no other thing to do but to forgive me." Right? So that's something. No matter what they do, just be quiet, shut up about it. Don't show any emotion, reaction, nothing. So that's what Allah said. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا, and do not scold them. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. So tanhar comes from the word nahar. Nun hara. Nahar is a stream, a river. It has to deal with water colliding upon one another. So nahara means like when I splash some water on your face, that's called nahar. So here it means don't scream at them. It's like a slap, or it's like a push, and you just take water and slam it in their face. Don't scream at them. Don't shout at them. Don't tell them get out of here. Don't just hang up the phone on them, etc., etc. Instead, what should we do? وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Say to them noble words, kind words. Dad or father or mother, I'm going outside. Do you need something? Or when you do go outside, call them. I'm in the supermarket, or I'm in Jackson Heights. Do you need something? Is there anything that I can get you? Because sometimes parents might not say something they want. Sometimes it's like that because their whole life it was the other way around. They used to ask you if you want something. And so right now, for them to be on the other side of the table, it might be difficult for them to accept that situation where they're at, or sometimes they just don't want to feel like you're providing for them when it was the other way around the whole life. So sometimes you just have to kind of see what they want, maybe like it's sometimes it might be some dish or something they like fruits, or maybe if they like fish or a certain type of fish and it costs really expensive. Nowadays you can buy meat cheaper than some kind of fish, right? So if you think they like that certain type of fish, they have mentioned it and on the phone with someone or something, you're supposed to take notice of that. Like, oh, my mom mentioned certain type of fish that she wants, she's not gonna tell you, but you gotta pick that up, and next time you go, make sure that you buy that for your parents, right? And don't think like, oh, this is going to waste. That's sadaqah. That's sadaqah. Any money you spend on your family, on your mother, and your father, your siblings, your wife, it's sadaqah. We forget that it's sadaqah. When we have that mentality that whatever I spend on my family is sadaqah, trust me, your approach to spending money on your family will change completely. You'll be like, this is sadaqah. Just like as if you were to give sadaqah to the masjid or to the poor, this is sadaqah. And this is actually even more has more reward when you spend on your own family. And we know with sadaqah, if you give something in sadaqah, Allah will give it back to you. Right? Allah will, that money will come back to you somehow. Whether maybe you will see some increase in your job, in your rizq, or a promotion, or a side hustle, or something will come and that will increase in your rizq. And you can try it, you can do it, and see that how much rizq and barakah comes in your life. Right? And I'm pretty sure you guys have all experienced similar things. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا, and say noble, kind words to them. And the next expression, Allah says, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذِّلِّ, and lower to them the wing of humility. Now, my whole life I kind of asked myself that why is Allah saying wing of mercy? We have hands, correct? But why is Allah comparing our hands to the wing of a bird? So Allah says that lower your wing of mercy. And the birds, right? What are the birds able to do? The biggest feature the most prominent feature in a bird is what? That it's able to fly. It has the ability to fly, and thereby getting an advantage over everything else. Nothing else can fly, right? Birds are so small and fragile and weak. If they weren't able to fly, anybody would just catch them and kill them and eat them or whatever, right? So their biggest advantage is that they're able to fly, and they have some power over us. So, what actually one of the meanings that we can take out from this is that when we have the power and when we have the authority and we are capable of taking out our anger at our parents or being mean to them, or maybe you're deserving to be in a certain or do certain things to your parents or talk in a certain way because you provide for the family now, even though you have the upper hand, what are you supposed to do? Lower your wings. Yes, you can fly, but still lower your wing out of humility. You're providing for them. You should be the one making the calls. Lower your wings for your parents out of mercy. When the cop perhaps pulls you over and you were caught red-handed, and then what are you gonna say now? Right? You don't have any upper hand at that time. You're completely caught, and you're just gonna say sorry, please. Let me go, officer. You just give me a warning this time, and next time I will be. At that time, we're being humble. Why? Because we have no other option, right? But here, Allah is saying that even though you have the option, you have the power and ability, still lower your wing of mercy for your parents. Min al-rahmah, out of mercy. Min al-rahmah here can mean several things. Either it means that you do it out of mercy, or it means that do it because of how they had mercy on you. They had mercy on you when you were young. Right now I have, little kids, for the first time we're seeing babies and nephews and nieces around their houses, and they will call their father like 10 times, Baba, Baba, Baba. And the father, every single time, is responding, G, 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 right, without getting angry or mad or screaming at the child, why you keep calling my name, right? So that level of mercy they had on you once, you do the same thing. Or it has the other meaning of that lower your wing, min al-rahmah, for the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, for the sake of you receiving mercy from Allah Azza wa Jal, humble your wing for them. And وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, and say, oh my Lord, irhamhuma, have mercy upon them, كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا, just like they ensured my well upbringing when I was small. So another meaning we can take out of this, وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ, this also means when birds, when they come to their nest and they sometimes cover their eggs or their little chicks or little birds, baby birds, if they're like an eagle or a vulture or a snake that comes, the mother, they lower their wing onto those eggs and those birds and those chicks, despite there being a snake or there being some predatory animals that are about to eat them. They will put their life on the line. They are willing to get injured and get bitten by a snake or whatnot just to protect their baby chicks. So similarly, your parents have done that for you when you were small. Now you do that same thing for them. You protect them. You be their overwatcher, someone who's there. Anything they need, no matter what time it is or what other what situation, what day, what season, what's the weather outside, whether it's snowing or rainy. If they ask something, if they need something, be there for them. Okay. And then so now the next verse, Allah says, and before we get into that verse, some might say that yeah, look, you said these verses and you're reciting these verses, that's nice, but you don't know my parents. You don't know how mean my parents are. You don't know what they have done to me, and you don't know their inside and this and that, etc., etc., etc. And so you try to justify your actions. Maybe you haven't talked to your parents for 5 years now because something happened and it became very personal and you were very hurt. So you're like, there's no way. My situation must be different than everyone else's. Allah says, رَبُّكُمْ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا فِي نُفُوسِكُمْ. Allah is most knowing of what is in your hearts, what is in yourselves. You think that your case is the worst scenario ever? Allah says no. He knows what you are thinking, what is in your heart, and what you're thinking about your parents. Right? So don't think that your situation is the worst situation. In تَكُونُوا صَالِحِينَ, if you are indeed pious people, righteous people who are trying their best to please their parents and be obedient to their parents, then Allah says as an incentive, Allah will forgive you because you're trying to mend relationship back again with your parents. فَإِنَّهُ كَانَ لِلْأَوَّابِينَ غَفُورًا. Then Allah is Ghafoor, is most forgiving to the awabin, to those who return, to those who come back to Allah. Awab is someone who travels very, very far away, deep into somewhere else. He goes in the wrong direction, and then he makes a decision to come back. That's called an awab. So Allah says, even someone who is deep into misguidance and he's lost and he's being disobedient to his parents for almost a decade now and years after years, Allah says, even for that person, Allah will forgive them. Right? You don't want to be that person where your parents reached an old age and because of some misunderstanding and because of some fight that happened, and maybe your parents were wrong, but that still doesn't give you the right to treat them in a manner that's unbefitting for parents, right? So you want to be a person where in the last stage of your parents' life, you did not fix things between them. You were harsh to them. The day of Eid came and you didn't even hug your parents or say salam to your parents because you just can't. So many Eids have passed and so whatever. What if your parents pass away the next week or the next month, right? 5 years down the line, you're going to be like, these things didn't matter at all. You're going to forget everything. If it's not the day your parents pass away, give it a year or 2 or 3 or 4, and you realize that, these trivial things didn't matter. And now I wish I can get my parents back so I can be kind and nice to them again. Your whole life you would regret that you couldn't make things up between you and your parents before they passed away. All right, so very scary stuff. Right? Even if your parents have done something wrong to you, you just really don't have any choice. Alright, so that's about family. The first thing what Allah said, you correct yourself, worship Allah Azza wa Jal, then you correct your family, and the core and the nucleus and the center part of your family is your parents, so to be kind to them. After you're done with your family, then what? You worry about your distant relatives, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts. So Allah says, وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ, and give to ذَا الْقُرْبَى, your kin, your relative, your cousin, whatever it is, وَالْمِسْكِينَ, and the people that are poor, miskin, وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ, and then it just goes farther and farther. وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ, the son of the path, and the traveler, give to them, give them their right. So your cousin, your family members, maybe some are struggling, especially if they're back home, or that maybe they just took some tests or exams and they did really well in their exams, and you call them and they tell you that uncle or brother that we've done well in our exams and tests, you try to maybe give them some gift, buy them some clothes, or as a gift or as some sort of scholarship, give them a couple of thousand, of their currency, and they can make use of that a lot. And miskin, people who are poor, obviously, or sabilan, people of the path. Back in the days, if someone was a traveler, then people of the locality would right away figure out and know that this person is a traveler, because if he's not a local, then he's a traveler. So they would, go out of their way and ask them, where are you coming from? What can I do for you? Everyone would come and ask them, can you could come and stay in my house for 3 days, no question asked, right? So nowadays, maybe you can say the security and this and that, but if there are people like that, legitimate people who are like stuck in a land, in a country, in a locality, then the masjid should, people in the masjid, because that's where we gather, either the masjid management or someone who has like a spare apartment or room somewhere, should try to take care of them. They have right upon us, the Ibn Sabil. Like one of the things the Prophet ﷺ said that will be continue to be a sadaqah jariyah after we pass away is if we make a place of resting for the Ibn Sabil, for the travelers, right? In this country, we can't really do it because we have the municipality and the the government, and they're taking care of it because of our tax money. But back home, it's not like that. If like there's a bus stop somewhere and it's really hot over there, that if you make a little room there or like a hut and just a little covering so people can sit with some benches, that will be something that you build for the people of the path, and that will continue to be a sadaqah jariyah for you after you pass away. Those small little things, these are good investments, right? We worry about the investment of this world. And then Allah says, وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا, and do not spend wastefully. So there's a little difference between, in other places we see that Allah said, وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا, right? Don't do israf. And وَلَا تُبَذِّرْ تَبْذِيرًا. Badr is actually some sort of seed, right? Tubadhir tabdil literally would mean don't just go and throw around seed wherever. When you take a handful of seed and you throw it, you don't know exactly where you're throwing, you're just throwing it. So tabdil is just, you go to a fast food restaurant or whatever, and you say, instead of saying, give me that rice or that rice platter or something, you say, give me the whole menu. Everything that's on the menu, give it to me. That's throwing your money where you have no idea, just for the heck of it, or just for being extravagant. Tabdil is like a worse type of israf and waste. Israf is when you need to buy that thing, but you go overboard, right? You need that thing. For example, you need a phone, right? But you buy something that you don't need. Maybe the folding phone with the camera in the back and the front and all this stuff. That would be israf. And nowadays cell phones are costing in the thousands, right? You don't need that. Maybe you know yourself. So israf and these kind of things, they're not clearly defined for us in the Quran, or that if you buy a phone like this, like that, it's going to be israf. You have to ask yourself that. You have to be conscious about that, and you hold yourself accountable. What you need, what you don't need. Maybe someone does need that phone, but most of us don't need that phone. So that would be israf. You need a phone, but you're going overboard. And tabdhir would be you don't even need it at all, but you just go. Like going and buying a yacht, for example. You have millions of dollars, you want to go buy a yacht, buy a private and this and that. Well, that would be tabdhir. Right? And the reason is, إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ, because those people who waste their money and just throw it around, they are the brothers of shaitan. إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ. Because one of the things that shaitan tries to do, إِنَّمَا يريد الشيطان أن يوقع بينكم العداوة والبغضاء. One of the things Shaitan tries to do is cause hatred and animosity between us. And Allah says in Surah Al-Ma'idah. So, similarly, when we just go around and flaunt our money and buy things that we don't need, your neighbor, someone perhaps who is not able to afford those things, he's gonna, maybe over time build some sort of negative feeling towards you. That I'm his neighbor, I can't even afford to get my daughter married or something, and he's my next door neighbor, and the daughter in the wedding of his daughter, he's spending like 20 cows when he could just do one cow. Or when it could have been done with a car, he's getting some horses or like a helicopter or something like that. That's gonna cause some sort of negative feelings towards you if you're doing tabdir and ibtah. So don't do that because they become the brothers of shaitan. Shaitan's mission is to cause animosity between people, and when you do tabdir, you also cause that animosity and hatred between and cause chaos in the community. وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. And shaitan has been always ungrateful to his Lord. So uh, that is just about israf and tasrif and wasting and just throwing money into the toilet, basically, right? Inshallah, we'll continue from here. Maybe next time we sit together, inshallah, we'll continue from here. But I just want to bring into focus some of these verses that talk about our parents, right? Because now we're talking about Father's Day and etc. You know, if you have your parents that are still alive, be be as kind as you can to them. Uh, don't even raise your eyebrows or say something that's mean or don't even say off to your parents. Basically, you have no right whatsoever to be mean to your parents. Even if they do something wrong, you just have to find a nicer way to explain it to them and talk to them, etc. Right? So, inshallah, I hope this gathering was beneficial for all of us. And Allah Azza wa Jalla write this in our Mizan of Hasanat. Allah Azza wa Jalla give us all the tawfiq to act upon the verses in the Quran, inshallah. See you guys next time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.